Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Joe Emilio Show. I'm your host, Joe Emilio, and with me tonight, very special guest, Ava. She's going with one name, like Cher. Um, no surname, no nothing. But yeah, Ava, how are you?
Well, thank you. Thanks. It sounds like one name, but actually it's quite a stupid story. I couldn't come up with a name, so like I looked at my signature and my it had my initials in it. So it's just my initials. So
Oh,
it's actually not one name. It's my name and surname.
okay, cool. That's original. But it's obviously your stage name. You've kept it Ava. I
Yeah.
think it's a pretty name. It works. It's symmetrical because AVA. I'm just trying to come up with as many compliments as I can. No, it's a beautiful name. Um, and yeah, so I asked you. I've seen you. We met on Twitter, right? So we've been like,
Yeah.
tweeting things and stuff like that. Maybe we'll get into some of the stuff that we tweet about. But I do
Oh.
believe, I do believe that I've linked your Twitter page in the description below. So those of you who want to know more, go check out Ava's Twitter page. And basically, I asked you to come onto the show because I saw that you are a singer, and I like to chat to fellow artists. Me being a comedian, fellow performers about how they're doing during the lockdown. And I hope that, since the easing of level or easing to level one, that things have picked up for you. But yeah, tell us a bit about you, your music career. I guess a good place to start would be, why or what made you want to become a singer?
Okay, so um, unlike you guys who've been performing before lockdown, I started my career in during lockdown. It's
Okay.
probably the worst time to start a career, but I mean, like we're all sitting at home, we had nothing to do, right? So I just had this great opportunity come our way to record 3 albums. So I
Wow.
started writing the first one during lockdown. Um, it was really hard work, let me tell you. It's not a joke. Coming up with 10 songs for an album while having a husband working from home. So like you're never alone. If you're a writer, can you imagine like you're working on a set list. You have to you still as a comedian you still have some admin, you
Yeah.
still have to write down your jokes. But if you constantly have noise in the house and you never have time alone really, and I have a little boy, he's 3. And whenever I would strum on the guitar, he would just have such a good time and he'd want to play along and just like, oh, this is not working. So I would sit at night between 10 and 11 because then you just so crash, like you just want to crash. You're just so tired from the day. And I would sit there as quietly as I can, not to wake him up, and I would just write these songs in the middle of the night. But it turned out to be my favorite time of day. Well,
Yeah,
I can
because
say of
it's
day, but
quiet.
at this nighttime, it's quiet. I can, just softly sing to myself and put all these ideas together. Um, but all of this was actually birthed out of a lot of tragedy. So when I was in school, I never really had this idea of a career that I wanted to do except music. But there were so many difficulties in my family that really prevented me from learning an instrument, or going to a lot of lessons, maybe doing vocal lessons. So I was very distracted and kind of just not focusing in one direction. And after school, I went to go study jazz. And I thought, this is really going to put me on my path. But I couldn't really make it. I couldn't do well enough in my subjects. And after 2 years, I decided I was going to do something else. And I eventually just quit. I just quit. And then how old was I then? I was probably about 22. when I started working in a corporate IT job. So I was just doing IT, doing my thing. And people would often say to me, like, "Yeah, you're just not cut out for this, eh?" And I was just like, I'm going to show you, I'm going to IT harder. I'm going to IT better than all of you. And we're just like, you know, I was very blessed in the careers that I had, in the career that I had, and the jobs that I did, but it made me very unhappy, really grumpy all the time. You know, just having like the grind. You get used to a salary, and you get used to um, being in an office environment and dealing with people, but the work is unsatisfying, especially if you're working on long projects. And as an artist, you like to take nothing, come up with something, create something, and have a product to show for it. You know, it's like your creativity that's shown. And now you're working with 100 other people. Nobody notices your work, and and you work in little increments, and only at the end of maybe a year or two, when the thing launches, everybody gets a pat on the back, and then you kind of just carry on. And I didn't see the 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 works of my hands, if I can say it like that. You know, I
Yeah.
I didn't get to really enjoy my labor, and it was always something nagging in the back of my mind, and I would try here, try there, but I never knew. I didn't know how to start, to be honest. So let's backtrack a little bit, like in those movies where they take you back now again. So now I'm young again.
Yeah.
Now I'm 18, 19, 20. I met through a friend a guy called Arno Keizer, and
I know him. He's
do you know Arno?
isn't he the singer of or am I confusing
No,
him with someone
that's
else?
Arno Carstens.
Yeah, okay, sorry. Now I'm confusing the two.
But I met Arno Carstens in Arno Keizer's studio one day.
Okay.
Um, Interesting story. um, yeah, that was actually quite interesting because I needed backup vocals for this single that he never released called Laser Spider. And I had this, yeah, I was doing the backup vocals and I was super excited, and then it never made the cut. But yeah, I was young and I was spending time with Avner Kaiser, and he was taking my little songs, and he kept telling me it sounded like Mazzy Star. Very chilled, very laid back, and he was really into Prodigy and stuff like that. And then he would put these hectic beats to my very gentle songs. And yeah, I played a couple of small shows, but he had a studio at the SABC in Joburg, and it was just the most incredible thing for me to walk into those studios, and it's like a maze in there, and then you see all the different DJs, and you meet DJ Fresh, and you meet Arno Carstens, and it's like you're fangirling all over the place. And but yeah, with so Arno, he recorded my very first singles, but nothing really happened. Um, so I think at one stage I kind of chucked them in the bin because I was starting to feel embarrassed, because that was as far as I got. Um, so fast forward a couple of years, I moved down to Cape Town, and I was still singing church, but I didn't know how you actually got your songs recorded. Okay, fine, now I write songs. Where am I going to sing them? Who's going to listen to them? I don't really want to sing in a pub, or I don't want to sing in the foyer at a casino, which is fine. And some people really want to do it. I never saw myself there. You know, I didn't want to sing with backtracks and are you doing other people's songs or,
What
um,
about South Africa's Got Talent? Don't worry, I'll be honest. I tried. I tried South Africa's Got
you
Talent.
did.
Not to sing, obviously. I went to do comedy. Um,
And how did it go?
it's very TV. Sorry if there's any producer that watches this from South Africa's Got Talent, but it's true. Like, it's so TV. Like, if you go there with a very sob story that your dog died recently and your mom has cancer and she's about to die and you need the money so that you can pay for her treatment, and she worked all her life and she was a single mother, and just that sad story that people kind of grip onto, then you'll probably get through and be not as talented. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are talented people that do go through, but they look for a story as well. They look for that thing. And then I also interviewed Mark Hayes, he was like a runner up to Idols, in one of the Idols seasons. And even he was even he said, yeah, it's TV. Like, the producers will try and make you like fight each other. Like, they'll go to you and be like, yeah, you know that guy, he said this about you, eh? And then like, it causes tension, but it's good for TV because then you end up fighting or something happens on TV. It's drama, man. It's all TV. It's like, and
I'm not
again,
built for that, hey.
but that's
I'm
the
just not
thing.
made for it.
Like, you could be talented. I'm not saying that people, like, some of the people obviously, on Idols and South Africa's Got Talent, they're so talentless that it's also good for TV because people laugh. But at the same time, there
We gotta
are
love those.
exactly, and at the same time, like, there are people that are really talented and they do go through and they deserve to go through and all that stuff. But then it becomes the producers just kind of work their magic and stuff. So, um,
But
so
you do have a sob story, don't you? Why didn't you tell your sob story? You used to
what?
live in America and now you live in South Africa.
Yeah, I guess I could have said
You
that.
could have been living in Canada.
I could have said, yeah. I don't know. I guess I swam in the wrong direction when I was crossing the border. I don't know. I JC McFarlane is with us, and he says, I wouldn't even qualify for Idol's wooden mic. Wow, that's that's saying a lot.
But that sounds really entertaining.
It does. Anyway, sorry, I interrupted you. Did you try Idols? Was that ever a...
I would often think about it, and then I would always kind of, I would always circle back to, some people want the fame. Some people have something to say, and they are very passionate about what they want to say. Other people have a support system of people of knowledge behind them who can give them the steps, the stepping stones. I didn't have anything. I didn't have any of that. I knew that I wanted to be original. I knew that I didn't want anybody to tell me what to do. I knew I wasn't going to fit into a cookie cutter little box of anything. Because it's just, I don't know, I'm always that type of person who disappoints people. I'm always going to disappoint you.
What?
I don't know. It's just awful. It is awful.
What?
It's awful.
That's got to be the most interesting thing anyone's ever told me. Like, and so honest. Like,
Like how often I've met people and they're like, yeah, you know what? I really thought that you were gonna be like this type of person. And just like, what does that even mean? What does it? It's like growing up means, I cry about these things.
wow.
I'm kidding, but just like
Yeah, go ahead.
you don't really. The older you get, the less you care really
Yes.
what people think about you, and the more you start thinking about what it is that you really want. And I wanted to make music that I wanted to listen to. I wanted to make music that when I listen to it, I'm just like, that is it. That
Yeah.
is what I want to listen to. I want to combine all the beautiful sounds of all the things that I love into a package that, if I had to die, I would die happy.
I think that's, most artists would, I mean, so let's take a painter, for example, right? Like, a painter just paints what comes from within. They see something, they paint it, they want to paint. Maybe they paint skylines or they paint whatever, but most of the painters that are so famous, they just paint from whatever's in their mind, right? And in the same way with music and comedy, I think true artists go their own path. You know, like it's okay every now and again to do a cover. It's okay now every now and again to maybe take a bit of advice from those that are experienced. But I mean, in the comedy world, for example, when there was always someone that was starting out with stand-up comedy, and I would always say like, look, you're gonna get a lot of advice from comedians. Like we love to give other fellow comedians advice and tips and stuff like that. But also remember you as an artist, what you want to talk about. You know, are you a storytelling comedian? Are you a one-liner? Are you toilet humor? Are you blue humor? Like, stick to what you like doing and create what you like doing, and use the advice that fits the direction you want to go in. If like for example, I had a lot of comedians tell me like, "Oh, you should do one-liners." I'm not a one-liner comic. I would love to, but I just struggle with them, and I should probably practice them a lot more. But I'm a storytelling comic. I'm animated. I'm like a Dane Cook slash. Yeah, I would say I'm struggling now with comedians, but like I'm a Dane Cook kind of
I
comedian.
don't know a lot of comedians. You can make up the names.
I'm sure viewers know. No. It's a Dane Cook's very animated on stage and stuff like that. So I'm also, because I also study theater, so I use that to my advantage and stuff like that. So I always like tell people like just use what you feel resonates with you, and the other advice, you just move on with your life. Um, and I think for
Yeah.
someone like you who, you know, wants to go in that direction of, you know, off the beaten path, if you will, or whatever, rebellious, whatever you want to call it, I think that's a good thing. I think it's good that you want to be like, you know, I want the music I want, because some of the best musicians are like that.
Yeah, so the thing about getting advice is like it actually just puts you in a place of humility, which is very important, especially if you're dealing with people who have a lot more experience and they're a somebody. Like we're all people, we're all fallible, we're all gonna die one day. We're all pink on the inside. So, you know, but some people have a lot of clout, and a lot of people can do something for your career, right? And they can help you, and um, you don't want to live to just forge forward and do your own thing and not care about gaining favor from people that you respect and admire. You're still going to be respectable and
Yeah, absolutely.
learn from them and take their advice. Um, so that thing that you said about an artist creates from what's inside them. But you know, when I was my mom was actually a painter, and she would say
Cool.
to me often when I was doing my art projects in school, like, don't paint what you know, paint what you see. And that is what I've also learned. You know, it's like I used to. I, we start creating out of what we see in the world. And then from what we see, it becomes what you know. The more you do it, what you see becomes what you know. And then you can start doing it from what you know. And early on, I was it's so embarrassing, the songs that I wrote. All these sappy love songs and nobody loves me. But now it feels like I've actually got something to say. Now I've got from experience, I've got something to say. So my sister passed away. She lived in Tanzania. She worked there for years and in Dar es Salaam. And my mom was going to come visit me to help me with my little boy. I had a shoulder injury, and I was like, Mom, just come help me just for a week or two, because it's like I just need my shoulder to heal. And my sister phones me and she says, you know what, I'm really sorry. I know that Mom was going to come visit you, but I'm just going to override this and call a veto or whatever. And Mom, I'm moving back to South Africa, and or actually she was taking a job in Ethiopia, but she was going to come back to South Africa, bring all the stuff back, and she wanted to spoil my mom with a vacation in Zanzibar. So I'm like, okay, well, who can say no to that? So my mom went, and then she came back, and very soon after, my sister never arrived for work, and it was the same day as her flight back to South Africa. They found her in her apartment, and she was unconscious, and they had to dress her and take her to the hospital there in Dar es Salaam, a fantastic hospital. There was a South African doctor on duty. We were so incredibly blessed with the help that she had there. But she had contracted malaria. She had been tested for malaria
Oh,
a
sorry.
couple of days before, and they didn't pick it up, and it became cerebral. And she passed away in another country. I couldn't see her, it's like the trauma. Like, I understand what people go through now when you have a loved one in hospital dying of COVID and you can't get to them and you can't see them and you feel so close. Like, you can literally just go down the road and go be with them, but you can't get to them. Like, it is an awful thing to have to experience. But there's a thing that the person who dies leaves you. And I think, like, every person who's lost someone close to them, maybe not everyone, but most people, I think, would agree that they leave you with a mandate to live better. She died 3 days. She got admitted on the 3rd of June. She passed away on the 6th of June. Her birthday was on the 9th of June. It's a memorial.
Wow.
And she was going to turn 39. So I'm 30. How old am I? I'm 38. I'm not old enough where I forget my own age. That's
Yeah.
wild. But so she never made it to 40. So what is my life going to mean by 40? So in my sadness and in the mourning and everything, I started getting this idea about writing music that would bring healing to people who mourn, but not in a superficial way. Because we've all heard those songs. It's like, oh, ek het hierdie liedjie geskryf vir my ouma. And it's like, sy was so goed vir my. And then they play the song and then they cry. And then you're sitting there and you're just not relating with the
Yeah.
song. But you can see that they really, really love the song. But it's so depressing. So this album that I wrote is 100% about death. So I couldn't avoid this topic. So I'm like, this is the thing that I know now. This is my life now. My life is never going to be the same because I grew up, my room was next to my sister's room, like forever, you know. Like, we wore the same clothes, we listened to the same music, we obviously had the same parents, but you just experience life together. You get hidings together. You like get grounded together. And now all of a sudden you're just the one. And this person who shared all of those experiences with you is gone. And like, I can't sit next to someone else and nudge them and say, like, oh, do you remember when you did that thing? All those experiences are now just with me. And so when I tell people about what the album is about, I can see them kind of trying to get out the conversation because people don't want to talk about death or dying, But I don't know, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. No, first I wanted to say sorry for your loss. It's not easy losing a family member, let alone a sister. But I think it's beautiful in a way that you've taken that pain and that suffering and the mourning, and you've created something that I think even she would be proud of. And it's interesting how for artists, I know for comedy especially, comedy does come from, ironically, a dark place. Like some of the best comedians suffer from depression, unfortunately. We all know the one, Robin
I've
Williams.
heard that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's tough. It's really tough. I think it is proportional to each other. So the more, I hate saying this, but the more depressed you are, the funnier you can be. And it's, but again, some of the best art
I
comes
get it.
from pain. So, do you have any? So you've made this album now. Do you have? Is it? How's it coming out? Is it coming out on iTunes? Is it? How's it? How are you releasing it?
So we did a scattered release. So they're not really a label, but they're a production company called Stone Bear and Mayer. So Helmut Meyer and Lucas de Beer, they have this really awesome company called Stone Bear and Mayer, and so we did this release. One song in the first single was in February, and then one in April, and then we did the rest of the album on the 31st of May. This year was released on iTunes and Deezer and Spotify and everywhere else. It's like it was distributed to about 40 different platforms, and it's doing all right. I'm actually quite happy, except for the fact that South African radio stations don't want to play it.
Really?
Um, yeah, you know what? I've
Is it because
very
of the topic or what?
No, maybe so. It has been played, but I quickly learned how the industry really works. And like I said, like I don't want to upset anyone here, but it really is about plugging and who you pay to plug it.
Yeah.
So I probably will eventually pay someone to plug it or find someone to do that. I just haven't really, I've been focusing more on it's it's so unprofessional, but just checking the like my Spotify or my Apple apps to see who's listening to it, where, because it's such a real picture to me to who's enjoying it and who's listening to it and who's picking it up where. Like I think it's the most incredible thing to see like someone in India and China, North Korea, Mexico, a lot in Brazil, France, Canada, UK, like so like and then I forget about the the radio stations here. Um,
Well, going in a way, you've gone kind of independent, and I don't think that's a bad thing. It just requires a lot more marketing, pushing it out there, sharing it to
yeah,
people and stuff like that. And right now, Helen, one of the people that are listening, is asking for a link. So what I'll, again, I believe Ava's Twitter page is linked in the description. You can go to her Twitter page. I've seen you've shared some of your songs on your Twitter page, and people have been commenting nice things about it. So you can go on her Twitter
don't be
page.
offended by my tweets. That's what I'm gonna say. You might like my music. I'm still trying to not be too opinionated on Twitter. It's really hard.
It's difficult, isn't it?
People are so opinionated, it rubs off on you. And then you see someone like, you're like, I'm going to be really good today. I'm just going to tweet about my music and mind my own business. And oh my gosh, what did that person just say? It's like, oh my, you're like living in a clown world. How do you think that thing works? No, 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 no. And the next thing you know is like, I'm going to have to delete that.
No, I think Twitter is look, Twitter is a very small what's the term I'm looking for? Like not a lot of people, not a lot of users, or not a lot of,
Microcosm.
yeah, like it's not a lot of South Africans use Twitter. Like it's a very small
They
amount of people.
do.
Not a
They
lot.
do.
Not compared to Facebook or even LinkedIn, Instagram. Those are the top social media platforms, and then it's Twitter, and it's like not even, I don't know, like 3 million, 4 million in a 60 million population. It's really not that big. The what you're seeing is bots. There's a lot of bots. There's a lot of people that the ones that where you react and you're like, "What did you just say?" Those are probably bots or trolls, and they're like, they're there to do that, to make you say something bad, to make you put out a tweet, because before you can even delete that tweet, they've screenshot it, and next thing you know, when you're on Idols, they'll try and cancel you.
Yeah. Yeah, you have some experience, and that is how I actually came across you.
Yeah,
Is that I was very impressed in the way that you handled your situation. But I'm
thank
not
you.
going to bring it up now. But I was just like saying like, yeah, someone's fighting back, and it's good, you know. I mean, that's probably something you learned in America. Americans know how to fight for what they want.
No, it's look. I think with this whole cancel culture movement that's happening at the moment, I think people need to learn to fight back, and someone needs to set that kind of someone needs to show the right way of doing it, because I don't believe in an eye for an eye depending on what the situation is, you know. So for example, like what happened to me is I decided, you know what, I'm going to go the legal route and we'll see what happens. Yes, it's long and it's tedious and it's annoying and it's frustrating, but I feel that doing it that way and not going on social media every other day and just starting that Twitter war, Facebook war, whatever, it's a waste of time and energy. Let the courts decide. And I've said it many times. My fight is no longer on social media. It's in the courts. Let the courts decide. And I think, you know, let's see
I
what the
think it
law
is the most
says.
it is the most respectful way of doing it, because nobody wants to be like a barking dog on the
Yeah,
other side of the fence, kind of barking at each other. It
exactly.
creates a lot of stress, and that's something that I've also like. I'm so off topic because I really want to talk about my album. It's called The Other Side.
Yeah,
For whoever's listening, you can just like search for Ava, The Other Side. There are so many Avas. If
yeah. I
I
saw.
knew,
I googled you, and there was
I
like so
would have
many.
chosen a different name, or like Ava something or something Ava, because now you have to register. I still don't have my artist profile created on Amazon. It is absolutely impossible. They put my music on somebody else's profile, and the same on YouTube.
What?
So when you go onto YouTube, it's a different Ava. And
How
people are
did that
like,
work?
that's very interesting. So yeah, it's just a bit of a logistical nightmare. But on Spotify and Apple Music, it's really easy to find.
Someone was asking, Christian Bunzayer was asking, can I find your music on
Buenzayer,
Bunzayer, sorry, was asking,
got your back, Christian.
can I find your music on Spotify? So yeah, there we go. Just search Ava. Is it just Ava?
It's just Ava, but if you search for The Other Side, it should come up. My little tile is green and it has my face on it like that. Okay, so what we haven't gotten to yet was
Hold on.
so
Sorry, I want to stop you there because Johan just said, I just listened to The Other Side on Spotify and it is fantastic.
that's what I like to hear. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, that
Yeah.
give me the happies.
Yeah. Sorry, you were saying.
So when my sister passed away, we all deal with grief in different ways, but I mean, like you go through this intense pain, and then you start looking for relief, and some people never really get out of that. But a friend of mine sent me a link to a person who had a video of a near-death experience that someone had on YouTube. If you've never looked at those, have you watched a near-death experience testimony? It is a rabbit hole. It is a very deep rabbit hole, and you can lose yourself in there. But it is so insanely interesting. And I started watching video after video after video, and I started coming across books, and then I started realizing And people don't know this. They have been studying near-death experiences in universities. There are university departments, like Ivy League universities, and they have entire departments that study near-death experiences.
But wait, hold on. How do you study a near-death experience? Like, do you put someone into a situation where they almost die, and then, because that's almost close to
No.
torture.
Okay, so
Because
there. Look, there's some weird things out there, so I wouldn't put it past them. But one interesting way of what they do is they go into hospitals, right? And in the hospital room, they have cabinets and things, and they'll take little trinkets or posters or words or letters and numbers, and they'll place them in areas that is not visible to anybody. Basically, it'll be between a shelf and the ceiling, and it'll be like very close to the ceiling. So you won't even be able to see it. The only way you'll be able to see it is if you actually peer in and know that it's there, right? And they've hid these things. Sorry, my cat. Get off. A cat and
that's all right.
a lap, so it was like so funny. And they would then just leave them there for years, and then people would have a near-death experience and recall things that happened in the room. So the person's heart stopped. They have not been able to resuscitate the person at this point. Some they're standing outside their body, looking down. They're either floating or they're standing next to the body, watching the doctors and the nurses trying to resuscitate them. And then they float up out of over the room, and then they see these trinkets, and they wake and then they are resuscitated, and they start telling this doctor about what happened to them. And they're like, you know what is weird? Like on top of that cabinet, there's like a red X and something about a 6 and a 9.
Oh, so they see
And
what?
we're like,
Okay, well, that's interesting.
yeah, no, it gets really freaky. There are accounts of nurses having a near-death experience with the person that they're treating.
Okay. I need to do some research of my own. It sounds.
So when you start doing research, there's a website called NDE Research, NDRF, NDERF, and they have over 4,000 near-death experiences, and they have a long checklist, and you have to fill in this survey, and then they collect data from all these near-death experiences, and then there are a lot of similarities, and they've come up with, I think, 7 similarities between most of them. Like you go through a black tunnel, or you encounter knowledge, or you come back with certain knowledge. You encounter deceased loved ones. So there's a checklist of common things that people come back and they say that they've seen. Excuse me. So what intrigued me was I started picking up that people were saying they heard these sounds when their spirit left their body. And then as they traveled away, they saw this, and then they heard that, and they were traveling through what looked like space and constellations, and they heard like white noise and a lot of synth and strings, and then they could hear people singing. So I made a list of every single thing that people said that they heard, common things. So I'm like, let's make some music with those sounds. So my producer, Constance Spies, he was very keen to get on board with this. He's like, well, never heard anybody doing this before. The other day I spoke to someone in the music industry, and they're like, I think you just created your own music genre.
Oh wow. Okay.
Because previously, I know that some people have had a near-death experience and they come back and they try and recreate the music that they heard, but it's very very new age type of music. If you notice that, like it's like what you listen to when you go to the spa, not the spa, the spa. So, um, so I incorporated a lot of synth, a lot of pulsating noises, strings. One of the songs has a lot of people singing in it, but I also wanted to represent all the nations on the planet that goes to this one common place. You know, it's not just you and your tribe that dies and see this. You know, that sees the, what's described as heaven. There are the same accounts in every nation that they interpret it slightly different because of their worldview. But I mean, everybody goes there and they see people from different nations. Like if you're a Zulu or if you're from a tribe in India, and they've had near-death experiences, they all report the same gates, the same meadows, the same city in the background, the same path leading to the city. I find it's like fascinating.
Just, I'm not joking. I will do some research. You've inspired me to check out what happens.
Good.
I'm a little bit worried of some of the stuff I might read, like how people have had these near death experiences. I mean, obviously some of them will be accidental because one day I was walking and then almost got hit by a bus and then I saw this. But then the ones that go for the actual experiments, like that's scary to me. Like you go into a room and then they try and do things to you to get you to have a near death experience. It's like
No, no,
weird.
no, 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 no. Nobody does that.
Okay, good.
Nobody
Are
does
you
that.
sure?
Um, I'm not sure. No, but it's just like your general hospital. If you have, if normally it would be you have these hospitals that's associated with a university,
Yes.
and they would use I don't know, like test cases,
So
like as
basically someone
to do
who
studies.
yeah, so someone who basically again got hit by something, maybe got hit by a car for example, and there's this group of students that are studying this phenomenon. They hear about this person that got hit by a car and they quickly go to the hospital and they ask the person a few questions, I'm assuming.
Yeah, well, generally when the person wakes up,
Yeah.
they are eager to talk about it, and then they'll tell the doctor or they'll tell the nurse. And yeah, and then if you're studying it, you'll go and you'll interview the doctors and the nurses and or the person if they're still there. I'm not 100% sure exactly how
Okay,
that
cool.
that process works, but it does, and it's being studied today still. I don't know if I mentioned, but they started studying this in the 1800s, and
Yeah,
that's
you
a
mentioned.
lot of data. That's a lot of time that's already passed.
Yeah, I do think that the similarities in a lot of the stories, because we've all heard near death experiences at some point in our lives, people talking about it and stuff. And I do find it interesting how a lot of people from, like you said, different backgrounds kind of say the same thing. Oh, I either went through a tunnel, like you mentioned, all the common ones. So yeah, it is fascinating. But let's get back to the album. So you created a new genre almost with this research that you've done now, trying to emulate the sounds.
Yeah, so I didn't want it to be something that freaks people out because I grew up being afraid of dying. Not death, but the act of dying. And in studying these, I think it was all the ones that I read, even the drownings, which I mean, when you think about it, it's very unpleasant to even just think about or imagine. They describe experiencing a peace and not worrying about if they're going to die, or the struggle to not die, and they realize that they're going to die. And a lot of people report seeing like a life review, but not being sad about it or not being upset about it. And that's something I wanted to convey, like in the music. Like the one song actually takes you through the process of dying. Like I wanted to put someone in the position, it's like you're lying there and your spirit leaves your body, kind of what it feels like. You take the fear out of it. Or someone's lost a person that they loved, a child, and they consistently obsessing about the pain that the child went through. To be able to listen to it and see like it was a good experience for them. It wasn't a bad experience. And you can just kind of wake up out of the pain and carry on with your life,
Yeah, it sounds. Again, I would highly recommend people to go check out Ava's Twitter page and find these songs. And again, Spotify for those of you who are just tuning in. But yeah, this sounds really like you've found a type of music that can help a lot of people as well. I think, as you just mentioned, someone who's in mourning, to have that peace of mind that this person didn't experience any pain, that's something that people want to relate to. Not that people can relate to it, because not everyone's died and come back, but it gives them a bit of peace. So well done. I'm definitely going to try and find your music and give it a listen. I've listened to one, but it was off, I think it was Afrikaans, unless I had the wrong song.
It was the wrong one.
Okay. Like I said, when I Googled you, there's a lot of Avas.
All my songs are English.
Okay, cool. So I'll go back and get the right. I'll go to Spotify. I didn't go to Spotify, so I'll go to Spotify now.
Do you have the wrong Ava?
No.
Did you actually win it?
No, I don't, because I contacted you on Twitter. You see, so it is the right Ava.
The one thing we all have in common is that we're all gonna die one day. That's the one thing we all have in common. And kind of just getting your head around, like, it's gonna happen and it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. In your family, you want them to also be okay.
Yeah. But here's a question for you, seeing as, that is, you're absolutely right. We all have that in common. How would you like to die? Like, what would be, in your mind, personally, the best way to just go off into the afterlife?
I want to be raptured.
You want to be rushed?
Raptured.
Raptured.
I don't want to die. I want to be raptured. So like because I'm a Christian, right? So like, okay, my music, it has a lot of Christian undertones. Some of the songs more than others. I've had people listen to my songs and they didn't pick up that it was a Christian song at all, which is kind of how I wanted it, I want everybody to be able to listen to it. But the one song is about the rapture. Like, so in the Bible, Jesus tells us he's going to come back for his church. And then you just start going, you're in heaven.
I mean, yeah, that's I think
sounds great.
I would like that, but what I mean is, like, for example, like for me, I would like that to happen if I'm in my sleep or something, like I don't want to necessarily die the way someone would in a Final Destination movie, if that makes sense.
No, I'm with you. I think like in my sleep, it's I try not to think about it.
Okay,
maybe
worst way to die, in your opinion?
Worst way, probably fire.
Ooh, that's a good one.
And that that's part of the story. So Arno Keizer, I try to find him to tell him about my album. Finally I did it, and I couldn't find him, and I couldn't find him, and finally on Facebook I came across a post from Barney Simon, I think. He said, rest in peace, Arno. So I'm like, oh my gosh, he burnt to death in his house.
What?
And it was such a tragic thing for a mother, like, for him to go through and for her to deal with. So I never got to tell him, like, you started it for me, and I was able to bring it full circle to actually do something with my music.
Well, I think he knows. I think he knows.
I think he knows. Oh, yeah.
But that's hectic. Wow. That's wow.
Yeah, no, it is hectic. Yeah,
I was
I
gonna
don't know how.
say, I was gonna say drowning, but I
That is a
think
close second, and probably
yeah.
being sucked into space.
Ooh, that's yeah. Ooh, then you really suffocate, and then you like are lost into the abyss of space.
Or maybe falling and knowing that you're gonna hit something at the bottom, like you're falling really far.
I
It's
don't
like
know
skydiving,
how.
but you can't enjoy it.
Yeah, sorry, that's really funny in dark humor.
You
Um,
you can have it.
no, it's fine. I think I've heard now. I'm starting to question like how would they even know this? But apparently, when you fall from a dizzying height, you have a heart attack before you actually hit the ground. Apparently, I don't know if this is true. I read
I
it
heard the same
somewhere.
thing, but
So
but then
yeah,
you have to fall really really far. I think maybe
yeah, yeah,
I don't know. Maybe if we're lucky, that
yeah. I
happens.
can't imagine the thoughts of someone who's falling from a building, the thoughts that are going through their head. It's kind of scary to even think about it. But let's go to some of the
This
comments.
conversation took a turn.
Yeah. let's let's go to some of the comments here. Matthew Dixon saying decapitated for him, I think is answer to that question. Going out in style. There's Matthew with his always dark humor. Decapitation, depending on the decapitation. Like if it's decapitation that's quick, like a
Yeah, it has to be
guillotine
swift.
style, yeah, not too bad because you're probably not going to feel anything. But man, if you get slowly, like somehow, I don't know, it's just slow decapitation, that's going to suck.
Yeah,
That's going to really,
like a
really
blunt,
suck.
a blunt saw.
So yeah.
Like, yeah, I
Um,
don't know.
I don't know why
This was hectic.
JC's asking someone jumping from Table Mountain.
Oh my gosh, it happens, man.
Yeah, it does. It does. The worst. Like, I mean, people jump from. I don't know if you're familiar with Brackenfell. Okavango. It's a bridge
Yeah?
basically that goes over the N1. Apparently, there's been a lot of suicides on that bridge.
Really?
Yeah. I think
I know that bridge.
a year before, like 2018, there was one guy. But for me, what's worse than that is if you attempt to kill yourself on that bridge and then you don't die. Like that's gotta suck. Because I mean,
And then what? And then you survive.
well, I mean, I don't know what condition you'll be in because that's a lot of cars driving really fast under that bridge.
Oh, I always think of the families. The families.
I know,
Man.
I know, yeah.
I have yeah, this is, we'd be talking about very, like, a lot of sad, heart-wrenching things here, but I know someone who I was friends with her son, and he died in a car accident, and years later, her other son committed suicide.
I
Like,
also know,
suicide is
yeah.
something is, I think that is the worst. That is the worst way to go.
Yeah, I had a family member who went through a similar kind of ordeal where just everybody was dying around them, suicide, accidents. yeah, it's suicide is a tough subject, and if there's anybody that's going through it, seek help. And I mean that in the
Yeah.
most respectful way. Like there are people out there and numbers you can call that will try and help you. Uh, what I can say is it's not the answer to your situation. I know it feels like it is, but it's not. And maybe Ava's music can help you out of it.
No, that's something that's actually that I haven't addressed before, but I've thought about a lot. So now I'm trying to paint this beautiful picture of what happens when you die, But I don't want to encourage someone to to take their own life, someone who's maybe already been romanticizing it. That is not the point.
Yeah.
The point is when you get to when you get to that stage and something happens to you and you die, you don't have to be afraid of going through that um, through that process.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
but suicide leaves a lot of people behind.
Yeah.
That is a pain that's self-inflicted on them, if you understand what I mean. Like that is the way that I see it. It's like you think that you're removing yourself, but you're leaving a lot more pain behind.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just want to go to Jefferson Oaks, who's asking Ava, you mentioned someone said you invented your own genre. I saw it described somewhere as electro folk, and that fits. So maybe it's electro folk then.
You saw my music described as electrofolk.
I think, or he means that he's listened to your music and it sounds like electro folk.
Like electrofolk. Okay. Well, every single song kind of has a different genre. But yeah, I can hear it. I think electric folk is a good description for some.
Christian is asking if I can play one of your songs on the stream. And Matthew says, personally, cancer is the worst, and I would tend to agree with that as well, because that's suffering on another level.
Yeah, it's a very long suffering. Hey.
Yeah, and then Johan mentioning it will get a copyright strike, which yeah, it probably will. But no, guys, go Shopify and check out Ava. What is your icon again? Green.
Yeah, it's my face like that. A green tile.
There we go. So go check it out. I'm sure you'll find it very easily. Um, so yeah, and then JC is saying choking and suffocating. Sudden drop in oxygen is probably a worse way for me. Yeah. The space accident comes to mind.
Your eyeballs getting sucked out of your skull.
Do you think, just very quickly, because I can't believe the hours are already up, but very quickly, do you think that doing this research, right, and getting your mind and understanding these emotions and feelings and sounds and all that stuff, do you think you've become a more morbid person in a way?
No, I was a lot more morbid before.
Okay.
I think I used to think about myself and my sadness a lot. Um, but this helped me to find hope, like this massive like dose of hope that I just want to hand out to people and say like there is hope for you. There is, yeah, and especially when you have kids, there's this fear that comes across you, like over you. It's like a blanket that covers you. Like, what if something happens to my kid? What if something happens to my child? I'm never going to survive it. But going through this whole process, like, things are going to be okay. You're going to be okay. You can take fear out of the equation. You can have hope even in the worst circumstances.
Yeah.
So I think I've become actually a bit more joyful. hopeful.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear it. I mean, I think like because at the beginning of the show you also mentioned that you were afraid of death, and it sounds like
Yeah.
you've overcome that fear in a way.
Yeah, but like it ebbs and flows. Like you never feel the same every single day. Um, but it's something that I do like listening to my own songs, and it reminds me of the process that I've been through.
That's cool. I don't think there's anything wrong with listening. I don't know
Is it like
why.
laughing at your own jokes?
Music and comedy, there are similarities, but yeah, I can't listen. Like, you know what? My problem is when I watch myself, is I'm critiquing myself. So like I'll watch myself and I'll say like, I should have said this, or I should have done this movement, or I should have paused, or
Yeah,
I
but
should have,
it's because it is live. You watch it
yeah.
live. But if you have a producer that kind of produces it and cuts and pastes and makes this beautiful little snippet of it, and you kind of like it because he did a good job, you'll be able to watch it.
Yeah, I see. So I need a producer, maybe. I don't know.
You need a good producer.
And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, this is where I'm going to have to say goodnight to everybody. Ava, I would love to have you back on the show. So maybe, when you release another song or something, like, please let me know. I'll probably see it on Twitter anyway, but please let me know, and we'll get you back on, and we'll talk more. And yeah, I wish you the best of luck with everything, and thank you so much for coming onto the show. Is there anything you want to say before we close off the show?
Yeah, you're gonna have to go listen to the right song now.
Yes, I will. as as a matter of fact, Christian even said, "But the correct one, please, not the Afrikaans, Eva."
Yeah. Thank you so much for reaching out to me and giving me the opportunity to talk about, a little bit about what I do. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, you're most welcome. I saw, like I said, I saw on Twitter that you sing, and I was like, I want to chat to you, and thank you for
But
accepting.
we're friends now. We're friends now,
Yes,
right?
yeah, we are. We are. Don't worry. Absolutely. And even JC McFarland is saying, heading over to Ava's timeline now. I hope it is linked in the description. If it's not, what's your handle very quickly for the people to search?
Java Lava Ava, like at Java Java Lava Java Lava Ava.
That's also very original. But I'm guessing the Java is from your IT years.
It is just I really love coffee, and
Or that.
then lava because it rhymed with
Okay.
Java.
All right, cool. Yeah, again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow I haven't decided yet, 8 or 9 for a solo stream. So come chat with me and have a good time. We'll chat about anything and everything. I might chat to you about the protest that happened on Saturday. I got some things to chat about with that. But yeah, other than that, ladies and gentlemen, if I don't see you then, stay safe, be kind to one another, and I'll see you at the next one. Cheers.
Cheers.